Good morning. It is morning huddle time.
Good morning. It is morning huddle time. I'm Chad Prinky here alongside Stacy Holzinger, as always.
The nature of the beast is the competitive nature of the industry.
Is if you can see it, you can be it.
It's all about the people. The people are what make it great and worthwhile.
Yeah, anything that I think helps build the story behind the company is great.
These are the things that that you're like, we don't need that because we have plenty of work right now. Got it. But if you don't do it now, where are you going to have work in the future? The Morning Huddle Construction Show is fortunate to have 5 sponsors for Season 7, helping us to spread the word and create positive change in the construction industry. And we want to give a shout out to each of them and thank them now. First is Katz Abosch. This is a middle market accounting firm with a deep specialization in construction, tax, audit, accounting, fantastic group of people. Next is Lawrence Law. This is a boutique law firm that works with contractors and helps them with their day-to-day legal needs as well as all of their most significant legal challenges that they might run up against. Lawrence Law. Then we have Sandy Spring Bank, which is a regional bank in Maryland with a group of people who really understand what the needs of construction businesses are and who partner with you to achieve your financial aims. So Sandy Spring Bank. And then we have Marsh McLennan Agency, bonding and insurance professionals really just have unparalleled insight into the construction industry. They're the best in the business. And then lastly, we have Genesis AEC. And Genesis is a full service architecture, engineering, and construction management firm with a deep specialization in the life sciences industry. We also happen to have some of their folks help us with guest hosting from time to time. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Let's get back to the show.
It's morning huddle time. Chad Prinky here, as always, alongside my good friend, producer extraordinary. No, I'm not going to do it. I won't do it to you. Stacy Holzinger. Stacy, how are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you? Are you sick of this rain or what?
Dude, it's been over a week. You know what? I've as you may know, I am a person that enjoys rain. But at the same time, I must be honest. I'm looking forward to a sunny day. It'll be nice when it finally breaks. Though it looks like it's going to stop in time for some baseball in Baltimore this afternoon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the Orioles made the playoffs. Kind of, sort of. They're in that wild card round, which is that. Do you get in or not?
Mm-hmm.
So it's an exciting time here in town. That's fun.
I'm a Phillies girl, so I'm all about the Red October.
All right. Okay.
So I love baseball playoff season. It's so exciting. I grew up with it, and we had such a great team over the years. So I have so many great memories.
I'm from Pittsburgh, and it's been since about 1993 since I had anything to cheer about, but I have adopted the Orioles. The ALNL thing makes that real easy. I have no problem. It's unlike the Steelers Ravens thing, which is just not an option. One has to pick. You cannot be both really in that environment.
Yeah. I went to the World Series game in 2008, and it was raining like it is now. And it was so bad. I believe it was the first World Series, and it was like the last game where we would have won. It had to get split up into 2 days. So
that's right.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I remember that. They split the World Series final game 7.5 or something like that. I remember that. That was crazy. Yeah. The rain just wasn't going to stop. They were trying to force it.
Yeah.
It was probably November 2nd or something like that by that point, by the time that it gets downright cold at the end of the playoffs.
Yeah. Oh my God, freezing. Yeah.
Downright cold. Yeah, I'm not. It's like sitting there at a football game. You're not used to that at a baseball stadium.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring in our guest this morning. Our guest is Michael Ho. Michael is the CEO of Bespoke Technology Group. And Michael is in to talk with us today about the integration of technology and pre-construction, and looking forward to that discussion. Michael, thanks so much for joining us on the Morning Huddle.
Good morning, Chad. Good morning, Stacy. The Blue Jays did not make the playoffs.
Tough division.
We did beat the Phillies to win once, though, so that works okay.
Yeah, that's right. That did happen one time.
It feels like Baltimore is going to be the team of the future, though.
Yeah, it may just be.
They're talking about that a lot. Yeah.
It just has to do with whether owners pay up. I have a love-hate relationship with a salary cap. I'm a pretty violent capitalist, and so I hate salary caps because to me it feels like socialism. Right? But at the same time, when you're a Pirates fan, you're like, a salary cap would just be nice. It would just be-
I also hate it, but don't tell my colleagues.
Yeah. I get you. Well, you're joining us from Canada, right? It's like socialism's normal in Canada.
I am Canadian. It is kind of socialist, and it's funny to watch Americans complain about cold.
Yeah, that's so funny. I love it. Yeah, we were talking before the show about Michael just grabbing popcorn and watching our presidential election play out. It's I think there's a certain percentage of the American population that's doing the same. I just have my head in my hands.
It feels like I'm in a favored position as a person that doesn't get to vote in your election. So we're as Canadians, we're clearly observers, and we thank America constantly for protecting their little brother. Like we know whoever wins, I think we're still going to be protected.
Yeah, it's true. Nobody's got like screw Canada as a part of the platform.
Yeah, we're not on the ballot at all. So we just watch, and I'm very excited for the VP debate now. After the first debate, it has to be. It can only get better.
Well, it's going to be comedy gold.
Yeah, it's the best thing on TV.
I know. I get it. It's one of those, and it really did had as many viewers. The presidential debate had as many viewers as the freaking Super Bowl, and that's just in the U.S. I mean, I can't even imagine abroad. There had to be watch parties.
As an optimist, I have to say, at least it's drawn attention, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Increased in viewership. I think people are more interested in politics in general. I think if there's going to be a positive light on it, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, for what reasons are they interested? But yes, I hear you, and I am also an optimist, and I'll embrace that.
You use the term comedy gold, so
yeah, it is comedy gold. It is. You have to admit that it's if it was, but it wasn't so sad, it would be truly funny. But it is. If you're like I say, if you don't have a horse in the race, it's a party. I'm sure. I'm sure. So, well, hey, so Michael, tell us a little bit about Bespoke. Tell us about what you do. What's the business? Just for context for our audience.
Great. Yeah. Bespoke Metrics was established in 2017. We are a software development company. We chose the construction industry, and the morning huddle was really interesting to us because the way that you frame things about changing the industry and making industry things for the betterment of the industry. That's the way that we looked at things. And our skill sets in terms of our founding group, I have three co-founders, Dave Warford, Paul Yip, Yuhan Zhuang. We all have credit backgrounds and came from a finance world. When we looked at what we could build and what we could do, we looked at things that were risk oriented. We looked at things that were data driven, and we looked at technology as something that was going to be the betterment for the industry. We didn't set out to say, let's build software and sell software. We built in terms of there's this massive problem in risk management in construction.
Yeah.
The pre-qualification is a tool. It's not being built the way we think it should be built. And so that's what we set out to do.
Yeah, I love it. And I think, and first off, let me apologize. I got the name of the company wrong as we were starting. I was looking at show notes on one screen and trying to click, and it's one of the damages or one of the challenges of a live program. So it is Bespoke Metrics, and so not Bespoke Technologies.
All good. It sounds pretty good though. Might want to get that name too.
Well, yeah, might as well pick it up. Go ahead and grab that LLC. This is something that I get a chance to see up close and personal when in the work that we do as a consultant with our construction clients. Is that they regularly wrestle with if the trade contractors are finding themselves up against unlike competition in situations where they're like, how did these guys even get to the dance? Like how are they even a part of this discussion? And where the general contractors are holding the bag with some really poor subs that they've hired on the job that are dragging the project down and causing problems for everybody. The owner, most of all, in my view, who gets kind of hosed in that deal. So the idea that this is a high risk moment is, in pre-qualification, I think is right on. And so where your tech fits is in helping to kind of bring structure to that and minimize risk. What does it do?
Absolutely. We look at the construction industry from owner, developer, and GC side. That these entities are effectively the money, the financiers, the logistics company, and then risk management. The actual construction is done by the subcontractors, and the supply chain is all the material goods.
Yep.
So when we looked at the software, we actually started talking to subcontractors first. We had met with hundreds of subcontractors, and they were full of complaints about pre-qualification.
Yep.
We had looked at it from a health and safety perspective, a finance perspective, what they were doing. It was repetitive. It was insecure. It was opaque. There was no real goal. They were just doing what they were being told to do with no real outcome and no benefit. Yet we understand that from a risk management perspective, construction is tremendously risk.
Yeah.
There's so much risk. And then you have and thrown in this low bidder wins, which is, in my sense, completely problematic and has to alter. That the industry, and I'll stand on a soapbox saying, owner, developers, financiers, you're not pricing risk appropriately. It's not being measured. You're doing things completely incorrectly to try and get a competitive landscape. So if those were the problems, the way that our software was built was we wanted to address all of those things. We wanted to make it an industry standard. We wanted to make it much more simplified and efficient for the subtrades. We wanted to provide them output and feedback, as well as almost advisory type services. And then we wanted to do better analytics. And what that meant was we wanted to address that risk management technique. That when you stated, Chad, that you have entities that may not be effective on job site, that may be true. And maybe some entities aren't even looking at their own pre-qualification or doing it appropriately. They're still looking at lowest bidder. They're still not taking into consideration the entire risk management perspective.
Yeah.
We believe that pre-qualification is going to grow. When we set out for this company, we saw a long-term pathway for improvement and growth. So we're still at the very beginning of it. So in year 6 or 7, we're still at the very, very beginning of our journey of our company and the way that we want to impact the industry.
Awesome. And last question about your business, and then we'll shift gears. But just how many folks do you have? You started, you're in year 6, 7. How many folks do you have? And tell us just a little bit about that journey. Well, I guess 2 founder CEOs to another. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, we're over 80 staff.
Nice.
So it's not a small endeavor. I don't think there's a pre-qualification tech tool that is more committed to that build out. The journey, Chad, and Stacey, as I'm sure you know as well, it's not easy. I think that people have used the metaphor, starting up is like eating glass. I don't feel that fully embodies the journey.
It's not just that.
Yeah, that digestive process. Sure, you eat it,
but eating glass, but maybe with a gun to your head, and maybe with like somebody sitting on your chest, or something along those lines.
Yeah, and it's constant. I think what is extremely rewarding, however, is just the impact of change.
Yeah,
I always tell our staff that the greatest thing that I can try and provide from a motivational leadership position is opportunity. That opportunity to influence, to provide strategy, to really take companies into different directions. That's I found the most rewarding things in a career path. So that entrepreneurial journey, I think, is really tethered to that. That hey, what we're doing is correct. What we're doing is going to impact the industry. It's going to be better. And all this frustration, I'm looking at that frustration as opportunity. So That keeps me waking up in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. No, it's great. And it is, as you described. I mean, it's certainly a need. And when you know that you're filling a need and you're doing it well and you're creating positive impact, that keeps you focused and coming back. And Stacy, your background, in working for an MEP contractor, and you filled out your fair share of pre-quals. Yeah.
Oh my God, yes. The most frustrating thing was, as a subcontractor, the GCs all requested similar information, but on different platforms. And it's like, why can't we just all agree on one platform? And I know that there was programs like Textura who tried to do this, but we still couldn't get everybody on the same page. So so much time is wasted because you're really all asking for very similar information. There's not much
Yeah, I totally agree. I say every I shouldn't say every. Some of the larger, more sophisticated general contractors that have time to think about this type of thing have developed some interesting metrics that they're looking at. They're watching. For example, one company that I've heard about has a rule where a project that they award to a trade contractor cannot equal more than 10% of that trade contractor's annual revenue, as as an interesting data point. So there are these like but at the end of the day, what do they want from you? It's the same stuff. They want to know your revenue. They want to know your company health. They want to know your viability, right? So because they're trying to minimize risk. So I'm gonna dive into some of these questions, Michael, so that you can build on our appreciation of pre-qual in the process, and exactly where it is today, maybe where it's going. So is pre-qualification part of pre-con is I guess maybe my first question. Is that the first step in the pre-construction process?
That's a great question, Chad. From a time perspective, yes, and that's it.
Okay.
In pre-construction, I find that what we have done and looked at in developing technology, and I think about new entrepreneurs entering the space, and I think construction tech right now is really discovered that financiers and the amount of new companies in this industry is ramping up at a massive pace, which people are also seeing, hey, there's advantages here and there's opportunities here. I encourage entities to think about the persona of the end user. I don't think we did that appropriately in our outset. That when we talk about pre-construction, most of the technology in pre-construction is bidding and estimating. Some architecture, design, all the BDC stuff. All of those things are extremely important. And a lot of the people that are in this, and Stacey, you know this from doing bids and things like that from the MEP side, people are high academics. They're very hardworking. There's time constraints. They're looking at, I would consider it really looking at the cost time analysis of construction.
Mm-hmm.
And those individuals and their personas of the technology that's being used in pre-con, that's clearly construction. Pre-qualification, similar sounding word, almost the same amount of letters, right?
Yeah, it is
I
actually.
think gets thrown into it because of the time period, not because it's the appropriate persona. The persona in risk management is finance, is insurance, is risk management. The risk management person is somewhat diametrically opposed from the bidding and estimating person. One person is saying, I want to hire this entity or I want to work with this entity as a partner. And the other entity is saying, we're reviewing it from a risk perspective.
Man, what a great point. It's like, that's a check and balance. And if you're asking the wrong person in that case, in the pre-construction department, to be the decider on whether we're going to incorporate somebody into the mix. Well, they may have a predisposition to that company for one reason or another, or they may have they may have a desire to get a cheap price so that they have a higher chance of winning the project. Man, that's an interesting thought. How many times do we actually see it work the way that you're describing? Like, what percentage of the time do you think it's actually happening at the risk management person as opposed to in the pre-con department?
It varies based on the firm. There are some firms out there that are clients of ours, they're general contractors that take risk extremely seriously. The risk management component, and I think a lot of entities say it, but in the way that they actually do it is very different.
Yeah.
I consider risk management one of the most important jobs. I think construction is chock full of risk. And I think that insurance, buy more. No matter how much you have, I would say buy more because there's so much risk in the industry.
Yeah.
From that perspective, GCs that do it very, very well are extremely committed to it. Their risk managers are empowered, which means from a centralization of that firm, they have the ability to push back on other pre-construction managers, portfolio managers, project managers, bidding folks, estimating folks. Those bidding and estimating folks, they have their own criterion, which is running that job, building that building.
Yep.
Right. So that can be opposed to risk, and those kind of frictional relationships they need to figure out, and then they find their balance of who do we want to hire, who can we hire, and what is our risk appetite, and how do we address risk management. It's not maybe not hire a particular partner. It's how do we hire them and manage the risk of that particular entity. It's all part of the same scenario. I just think that historically, pre-qualification has been tied to bidding and estimating folks inappropriately. If I was in bidding and estimating, I would want as far away as possible from pre-qualification.
I hear you. Yeah, I do. But I can see the push pull. I can understand. Like, there's a piece of this equation that really boils down to, like, well, hold on, what if the only people we're allowed to invite to bid are so high, they're priced so high that we can't compete and we don't win enough work. So I could see the motivation to say, like, hey, our department is tasked with winning the work. You need to allow us to bring in the people that we think can get us the work. With all that said, your other end of that equation is like, well, okay, if you win the work and then you make no money and in fact you go out of business, is that good? Right? No, it's obviously, the risk. There has to be a balance. There has to be, the ability to
absolutely
check and
absolutely
balance that. That makes sense to me. That's great. And so, okay, that's a really helpful thought process. What and I'm sorry, I'm diving right into the hot topic on this, but I'm fascinated by it, and I imagine it's a world you're looking at every day. What is your opinion on AI construction tech in the future, and where maybe AI plays into this pre-qual? See, I did it, into this pre-qual process. What do you see happening with AI in pre-qualification and maybe broader in all of contact?
I love AI. So, we've been looking at it for years. I've been using it every chance I get. It penetrates my day in terms of tools that I utilize, things that I'm researching, and I'm learning constantly about it. I think it's going to have major impact, not only in this industry, but the world as a whole. But it's a tool. And I always consider it as a tool. And I think about, when I went to college, we didn't have the internet.
Right. Yeah.
That ages me, right? But
I was right there, man. I was
yeah, pretty much.
I had to plug in. I'll just put it that way. Yeah.
I remember the first person that showed me Google, and how powerful Google was, and suddenly I felt smarter than other people because I would just Google stuff.
Totally.
And it was knowledge I had.
They
didn't
magic.
know Google existed.
Yeah. Yep.
And then you think about a cell phone, a computer, a laptop. You used to do business travel and you'd have to sign in from your hotel and rip through your emails at night after a day of meetings. And then BlackBerry came out. These efficiencies and the separation of people that utilize technology was massive. The difference, however, in AI is that it's not a technology that just helps you check your email.
No.
Or it's just not a search engine.
Mhm.
It's a much more powerful tool. So like other tools, you're going to have to be trained or educated in it and how to best apply it. We're in discovery mode. So those people that figure a way to utilize it the best, I think are going to greatly separate themselves.
Mhm.
It will be just like flat TVs that technology essentially will catch up with itself and then price will drop. And then there'll be probably a sense of, and you already almost have this sense of it, that AI is already starting to consolidate. That, how many winners are there going to be? How
Yeah.
are we going to utilize it? And then you start thinking about other problems. Like, it's going to create other opportunities. I don't think it's going to be this mass job destruction. I see job creation and I see opportunity. Now in construction, especially in risk management, I have a respectful fear of AI. And I think that if we utilize it in what we do, so in pre-qualification, if we were to utilize AI from an analytical perspective, I think the analytics that it would produce would not be beneficial. That I think right now there's a lot of, I'll call it garbage in terms of information. And we as a society have information overload. And I'd never really say that. I used to always think that give me more information, I'll decipher it and figure out what to utilize. I don't feel I'm capable of doing that anymore. That there's almost just too much. I almost want to now pare it back and say, how do we focus on certain things and how do we remain focused and what's important? The AI in construction, efficiencies, appropriate analytics, but more tools right now in data collection, data verification, and standardization. I think that's simple and easy, and I think that the industry should adopt that wholeheartedly. The analytical predictive nature of AI, I don't think it's appropriate in construction at this stage. I think you're going to have a lot of false positives, and the decision making from a false positive in the construction industry, the risk and cost of a mistake based on a false positive is too great.
Right.
So I think there has to be that, again, Chad, that balance of, how much do you adopt it, but how much do you listen to it?
Yeah, I think that's really the question. How much do you? I think we do need to. This my 2 cents. I think we do need to allow some of those predictive tools to play out, and tell me what it thinks. Allow it to tell us what the technology thinks we should do. We just have a decision whether we want to listen to it.
Yeah.
And I think it just becomes, at least for now, a data point.
It's gonna learn. And I have a 10-month-old at home, and I talk about generative AI. I was testing my son as like generative AI.
Yeah, I mean, that's what our brains are.
I was moving a tissue box to the end of a coffee table, and it would fall. And I was watching him watch that happen over and over, and he would start to figure out that, hey, once that box reaches a certain point on the table, it's going to tip or it's going to fall. And he started preemptively holding his hand out or moving in that direction.
Sure.
And I said, that's generative AI. I'm teaching this.
It's just actual regular old intelligence, but it's generative. That's what it is.
So if you think of those as data points and that applying that into construction, you move certain things a certain way, the likelihood of that happening. So I'm not suggesting the probability and the predictability of AI isn't there.
Right.
I'm just saying that we're still
much risk right
fairly
now.
far away from using it. And then for those purposes, but wholeheartedly agree with you. Let it run. Let it continue to learn. And the pace of learning, I think we're all shocked by. I think everyone in the world who's ever used it is, wow, this is like from day to day, the improvement is is very, very large.
It really is, and yeah, I think a healthy respect and fear to not allow yourself to make stupid decisions, and to not, and there's no doubt. Like, okay, I'm with you that it's going to create jobs. It's also going to destroy jobs to an extent. I just think that that happens. That's a part of technology has always done that.
Right.
To your point, vehicles did that. The invention of the automobile put a whole hell of a lot of carriage drivers out of business. But we figured it out, and
It evolves. Sometimes it comes back. I wouldn't mind some milk delivery.
yes.
I guess you can. Or I guess you can't order groceries already. So maybe it has come full circle.
It has. We're back to milkmen. We've arrived back at milkmen. They just happen to carry more things, and they pull into your driveway in a Hyundai. All right. So how let's talk. I want to talk about integrations. I think there are a lot of I have all these fascinating discussions. As anybody who knows me knows, like, I love technology and I don't know nearly enough about it to really advise beyond, here's what I see working. This is I can tell you about positive use cases. So when we're working with our clients, people will say to me all the time, like, what do you know about such and such technologies or this and that? And one of the things I found myself saying way more often is, these days, most things can talk to each other. And I find that a lot of my clients are, they want the all-in-one. They want everything that does all-in-one. They want, an ERP that has a project management, that has an accounting, and that has estimating built in, and a CRM built in, and an LMS built in. Like, at a certain point, I'm like, I don't think you're going to get all that. Like, I don't think you're going to get everything built in. And what I found is that a lot of the built-in stuff, while it's trying, it's not the best product. It's kind of, it's so. Anyway, I'll shut up. My point is, talk about integrations in technology, and specifically again in this, pre-qualification and pre-construction, two pieces of the puzzle that I think you're pretty close to.
I've been hearing the word integration so often, as I'm sure both of you have as well. I've learned to hate the word integration. Hate's a really strong word. I don't use it that often, but I actually hate the word integration. And it's not because everyone's asking us to integrate to everybody else. It's also looking at it wrong. I think, Chad, you hit it right on the head there when you said it has to talk to each other. To me, that's not integration. It's just communicating. You don't have to be one platform. Now, we are partnered with Procore, for instance. So, I'm a big fan of what they're building and their roadmap. But I also want to say that I don't think anyone can build everything great. That there's not going to be one supplier for all things. That makes no sense, right? We're a specialized functionality in the industry, and we think that we will always be number one in pre-qualification, and we will set out to do that, and we'll take on everybody. So, from that perspective, if you look at the way that, I guess, the metaphor that I try to use and consider in the marketplace is your phone. Your phone has a whole bunch of different apps. And you may like Google Maps, and you might like Waze. They're owned by the same company, but
right, yeah.
Whatever you like, it's your app. It all functions on this one backbone, your phone, whether you're iPhone or Android or whatever other thing that's out there.
I was going to say, are there other options these days? I have no idea.
Right? That's your backbone, and it has to sit on that. You have to be available in that store.
That's right.
And that's the integration.
That's right.
Your little apps don't have to communicate to each other. It just has to display on your phone. And then if you dislike one of the apps, right now you just drag it into a garbage can and let it go, and it disappears. And you go to the store and you download another one.
Mm-hmm.
We're like that. We're an app. We're a vendor. And I think vendors in construction tech should build their technology like that, versus us being spiderwebbed and saying, you can't unwind. Anyone who uses this, it's so difficult to delete this app off your phone, I think that needs to be considered. Not to suggest that you're pessimistic, that I have to prepare for this not to work out and I'm going to delete it, but also to have the ability, because you still have your phone and you still need your phone. The app can't destroy your phone type of idea. And so that's the metaphor that I extend in terms of integrations. We're working very hard to communicate to anyone that will communicate with us, but also not build this giant spider web of APIs that everyone in construction tech is now an API maintenance firm. And then someone makes an alteration and we all scramble to fix 500 APIs to make sure that all of our things connect together. The common language, the communication, it varies by tool, but there are standards that we should utilize and force forward within the industry.
Interesting. You know, I see this only through, I don't see it through your lens. I see it through the lens of the contractor that is, you know, running. Yeah, and I've heard this quote many times. Like, the last thing I need is another app. Like, I don't need more technology for my people. It's hard enough to get people, and it really boils down to like adoption and access to the information. I think it's those two things. And so, how do you help to reconcile that problem? And I know I'm putting you on the spot here a bit with that question, but if I'm a contractor and I'm really just saying, like, look, I got stuff to build. I want to use technology that enables that. And I don't want to get to a point where it's technology overload. And at some point I look at all these different apps and tools and things like that. And I say, I need fewer and I need them all in one place. If that's my motive, like if that's my natural reaction, how would you help me to reconcile what you just said with my problem?
Sure. I'll break it up into two pieces. The one about kind of technology exhaustion. I'll say go to the gym.
Okay.
Like, exhaustion is not a choice. Like, technology is coming whether you like it or not. So wake up earlier, eat your Wheaties, like get prepared, because exhaustion is not a choice you have, right? So you either do this or you're gonna still have a tube TV. Right? Which the game doesn't look as good. I can't imagine, like, when we watched sports in the 80s, what it looks like now. It's like, how did we watch the game? Right?
I know.
It's night and day.
It's amazing.
It's night and day. So you have to have a technology plan, and people should hire technology people and figure a way to get highly involved. The second part, in terms of buying one platform and focusing on construction. This is construction. Technology, again, is a tool that's going to be used and is already being used in construction. You're already in technology. An all-in-one solution may fit you. I'm not suggesting that's bad for everyone. Right? That's fine, right? If that's what you want to do, and there's great solutions. I had named a couple of them already. I think they're great, right? They're working very hard to build technology. I have a lot of respect for technologists within this industry, because it's not an easy industry to be a technologist, because there is so much resistance to change and change management, but it affects so much of us. I, however, believe that you should always choose best in class. That whatever it is, I like luxury stuff. I like to eat well. I like good things. I don't want to just do that because that's there. I never want to select life that way. I want to select the best things all the time. It doesn't have to be the most expensive things. It's just what I like and fits me appropriately the best. And I think we all have to go through those decisions, and people at companies, I think whether it's run by an individual or run by a group of people or it's an ESOP, you have to abide by kind of management from that perspective. I, however, hope that whoever is making these decisions spend the time to get very involved in technology and analyze what is actually out there. I think that's important. That knowledge selection of learning technology, which means participate in things like the morning huddle, like learn more.
Yep.
Like there's more than enough resources, but technology is here in a big way. So I think people need to be highly involved and engaged because it's going to alter the industry.
Mhm.
Damn.
I have some opinions.
No, I like it. You know, and I appreciate that. I think there's, you know, um, I've got to be able to justify my spend. And in the construction industry, I think one of the truths is that technology has not made us more profitable yet. As an industry, we're not throwing more points to our bottom line as an industry, you know, today than we were in 1992. You know, it's like it's unfortunately, and maybe I don't know this data off the top of my head, but we may have even gone backwards in terms of creating, you know, a more profitable space. And so for the contractor that is trying to make decisions about justifying this tech on their bottom line, it's one thing when it's like, you know, well, if I don't have it, I can't win work. You know, so it's par for the course. It's something I absolutely have to have. It's another thing when you're looking at it, you're like, what am I going to get? Where can I point to the
I
ROI?
think
So,
one thing on that, Chad, I think is that in the bidding and estimating world,
yeah,
and if we do that kind of apples to apples scenario, that compared to what we did 5 years ago or 10 years ago, the pricing or margins are flat to lower. I say that's a mistake on that particular entity. Technology is here and it needs to be priced for. Risk is here and has always been here and has never been priced appropriately, which is back to our original argument of lowest bidder wins. It makes zero sense. Zero. Because entities, GCs, subcontractors, suppliers, they have to price technology in. Have to.
and Michael, I'm with you, but the problem is the buyer needs to price it in.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying? And so the contractor's not in control because the buyer is the entity in control. And so I'm all for the kind of thing that that you're doing with Bespoke, in that you're creating a world. Ideally, I think if I understand it correctly, you're creating a world where it brings some objectivity and some scoring, if you will, into the mix that helps me as a contractor to say, like, I am not the same as
Think of it
all
this
of
way,
these other
Chad.
folks.
Like my background, we worked at a rating agency.
Yep.
And in credit world, I think that everyone knows kind of investment grade, AAA, and then the junk bond market.
Yep.
Right? Those are invented terms, right?
Right.
That's language. We say that this is investment grade and this is junk bonds.
That's right.
And then we equated essentially analytics and data to stipulate the risk that is associated with this particular security makes it investment grade. And therefore the pricing is X.
Right.
This data and analytics demonstrate that this is more risky and therefore junk and priced like Y. I'm saying that we can do this in construction and price risk appropriately.
I love it.
Absolutely, I'm talking to the buyers. I'm telling the buyers, you have to listen to this. GCs, subs, we should all price for this, and we should do this as an industry and price things appropriately. I do believe that the industry should be paid more because they take on tremendous amount of risk.
Yeah. And Michael, I love your vision of the future, and I sincerely hope that the message continues to reach construction owners. That it continues to reach the developer community, that state and local and federal buying agencies, and that fill in the blank. All of the construction buyers out there buy into the idea that these are not that they're, and I say this all the time. I think there's just no such thing as apples to apples. I think construction, there definitely is in the product realm, but when it comes to construction is not just manufacturing. It is manufacturing and service. And there are inevitably the human element, the trust that you get from the people, the relationships that you build with people, all those types of things that can't be apples to apples. It is simply not the same. And so I think, anything that helps us to better articulate the fact that there's truly there may be, okay, we may both be apples, but there's different apples, right? That there's Fijis and Honey Crisps, and you got to figure out which one you want. Honey Crisp, by the way, is far superior. Anyway, I appreciate that, and I agree with it wholeheartedly. And I think if the industry, if the construction buyers appropriately price in technology, it'll far advance. We'll have safer projects, we'll have higher quality projects, we'll have faster project delivery, we'll have all those things can occur. But it's look, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. You've been serving this industry for a while, but it's an uphill climb.
Lowest bidding is not creating a competitive environment, and
That's right.
is passe. They're creating a higher risk environment.
Completely agree.
Which they should not do. And I understand it costs more money, but that's actually the price that it should be at.
Michael, this has been a great conversation. Stacy, any questions that you have, either yourself or that we pulled from our chat?
We have one question for you. Are your clients GCs, subs, and vendors, or?
It's everyone. We actually treat everyone as if they're a client. They all sign different terms and conditions with us. We have a level of service for all of them. We do essentially try and balance that equation, that GCs have requirements and subcontractors have requirements as well. And we're trying to service both sides of that equation.
Nice.
Great. Michael, any parting words that you want to leave us with?
No, I think I like this podcast very much. I think you guys put on a great show. So I've been watching your episodes for a while. So keep up the great work.
Thank you so much. And I apologize again for butchering the name of your company at the beginning of the conversation.
It's all good.
You're trying to keep 3 screens straight and figure everything out. And when you're also dealing with lower than average IQ, it can create issues as we've seen. Thank you. I appreciate your understanding and your grace with that. Thank you so much for being on, Michael.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
You too. All right, Stacy, that was fun. I love talking about the get work side of construction. I really do. Just everything that goes into getting work and procurement, all that stuff. It gets me all fired up, and I love that it's a topic that you actually I like
it too. It's exciting when you win a project and you're a big part of the beginning.
Yeah. You've been a part of that for sure. So.
Yeah.
Stacey, what do we have next week?
We have Michael Fortenberry, and he is going to give us a new perspective on take hourly pay. Right?
I can't wait for this.
You know more about this. I think
this is gonna be so freaking neat. It's another kind of tech discussion, but it's a very, very different end of it. This is so bottom line is we've all seen the risks. I'm not saying that it's a guaranteed problem, right? But we've all seen the risks of paying people hourly and then not watching them particularly closely and watching the the hours melt away on your bid, and all of a sudden you're making no money and you're like, oh my God, what the hell happened? We were supposed to make money on this job and it all got eaten up in labor. Why did it get eaten up in labor? This is like a trade contractor's nightmare. And it happens all the time, right? Especially when they're slow. They don't have a lot of work going on. Their hourly people kind of know that, and they're seeing it and they're like, man, I'm going to camp. So there are, and it's a natural human thing. Doesn't make them bad people.
Yeah.
Just, it's a part of it. But it's this push pull. Supervisors are like, you gotta go, and it's anyway, long story short, what if we could pay our employees piecework? In other words, pay them based on productivity, not an hourly rate, but pay them based on productivity, which rewards merit as long as they're meeting certain safety criteria and quality criteria and things like that. and this is what we've been doing with like subcontractors and 1099, which like we shouldn't be doing. We should stop doing that. So how do we get the 1099 productivity out of a W-2 employee? And Michael's got a whole new thought for how to do this, and I look forward to poking a bunch of holes in it, or being wowed with something that is really doable. I'll definitely be all over him in that conversation.
Yeah, I have some initial thoughts on that, so I'll wait for next week to ask my questions.
It's gonna be fun. Stacey, is there anything going on you want to steer the audience toward?
I am going to be speaking at ABC Virginia chapter. We have a panel discussion October 16th, I believe, in Dulles. We're going to be talking about business development, networking, best tips for young professionals.
Awesome.
So,
That's so good.
yeah.
If you're somebody who is not active in that arena right now, you're sitting there like, I know I should totally get involved. I know I should get out there. This sounds like something you should absolutely get all over.
Yeah, it's always good to have a refresher, because just like tech, people are doing different things with BD and personal brands and things like that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, this will be sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome. We are holding our upcoming leadership boot camp. Well-Built's leadership boot camp is coming up December 2nd through the 4th. If that is, I mean, we continue to grow this thing, and we've had to start announcing it further out, and we're filling up quickly and all that jazz, which is what an incredible experience. When we first launched it, Stacey, I was like, I hope somebody shows up. And in the first one, we had a nice turnout. The second one, we had like double the people, and this one, we already have as many people as signed up for the first one 3 months before it's even going to go. So it's crazy.
Where is it taking place?
It'll be right by BWI. We hold it in a conference center, the Maritime Conference Center, right by BWI, because we have a lot of people that come in from out of state. So if you're not local, BWI is Baltimore Washington Airport, and yeah, I would say half of the attendees come from all over the place: Canada, Texas, blah blah blah. So it's
fun.
It is. It's so fun. It's been a real win. So, and I will use this as a little moment to remind our audience that while Stacey and I absolutely love doing the Morning Huddle Construction Show, it is neither of our full-time jobs. Stacey heads up an awesome marketing and communications company called Steel Toe Communications. SteelToeCom.com is where you would find out more about that. And I run a strategic planning and consulting business that all we do is work with contractors, just like Stacey, and it mostly focuses on employee development and strategic plan creation and execution. So if you want to learn more, it's called Well-Built Construction Consulting, and you can go to wellbuiltconsulting.com. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Have a good